The galaxy was finally at peace, or so everyone thought. For decades, humanity had fought a brutal war against an alliance of alien species who sought to dominate the stars. The battles were fierce, and the cost was high. Entire planets had been destroyed, billions of lives lost, but in the end, humanity emerged victorious. At least that's what the history books would say. Captain Ryan Cole stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring out at the vast expanse of space. His blue eyes, once bright with determination, now carried the weight of years spent fighting for survival. He was a hero to many, a symbol of Earth's resilience. But today, he didn't feel like a hero. Today, he felt uneasy. It wasn't supposed to be this way. The war was over. The enemy had surrendered after the decisive Battle of Epsilon Delta, where Ryan and his elite squadron had turned the tide. Humanity celebrated across its colonies, hailing their soldiers as saviors. Yet, despite the parades and speeches, something gnawed at Ryan's gut. Something wasn't right. Reports had started trickling in from the edges of explored space. Outposts that should have been bustling with activity were silent. Ships sent to investigate returned empty, their crews gone without a trace. No signs of struggle, no distress signals, just emptiness. It was as if these places had simply vanished into thin air. Ryan glanced over his shoulder at Lieutenant Emily Dawson, who stood nearby reviewing data on a tablet. She was younger than him, with sharp features and a calm demeanor that masked her quick mind. Emily had been by his side throughout the war, always thinking 2 steps ahead. If anyone could make sense of this mess, it was her. "What do you think?" Ryan asked, breaking the silence. Emily looked up, her brow furrowed. "I don't know, sir. These reports, they're not adding up. Whatever happened to those outposts, it doesn't match any known tactics. Not ours, not the aliens. It's almost like..." She hesitated, searching for the right words. "Like what?" "Like something else is out there," she finished softly. Ryan nodded slowly. That was exactly what worried him. During the war, humanity had faced countless threats, from plasma cannons to psychic assaults. But this was different. There was no pattern, no logic. Just whispers of something lurking in the dark. As if on cue, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain Cole, we've received another transmission from Sector 12. Came the voice of Private Jake Thompson, one of the younger members of the crew. "You'll want to hear this." Ryan exchanged a glance with Emily before heading to the communications room. Jake was already there, his youthful face pale with unease. On the screen in front of him was a grainy video feed from a scout drone. The footage showed the interior of an outpost, eerily quiet and dimly lit. Papers lay scattered across desks, chairs overturned, and equipment left running as though the occupants had fled in a hurry. But that wasn't the worst part. Scrawled across one wall in jagged letters were the words, "You forgot rule number 1. "What does that mean?" Jake asked, his voice trembling slightly. Ryan stared at the message, his jaw tightening. He'd seen plenty of strange things in his career, but this felt personal, like whoever or whatever had done this knew them. Knew humanity. And it wasn't just taunting them. It was mocking them. "We need to find out," Ryan said firmly. "Get me everything we have on these disappearances. Cross-reference. With historical records, folklore, anything. If someone's trying to send us a message, I want to understand it." Emily stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. "Sir, I've been looking into similar incidents throughout human history. People disappearing without explanation. Strange symbols appearing afterward. It sounds like something out of old Earth legends." "Legends?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Yes," Emily replied. "Stories about boogeymen or shadow creatures. They usually involve warnings, often tied to specific rules meant to keep people safe." Ryan frowned. "You're saying this might be connected to some kind of myth?" "I'm saying it's worth considering," Emily said. Myths are powerful because they tap into universal fears. If someone or something is using them against us, we need to figure out why. Jake shifted uncomfortably. So, what? We're dealing with a ghost or some kind of alien boogeyman? No, Ryan said sharply. We're dealing with a problem. And problems have solutions. Until we know more, I don't want anyone jumping to conclusions. Still, the idea lingered in the back of his mind. Growing up, Ryan had heard tales of the American boogeyman, a shadowy figure who preyed on those who broke certain rules. As a child, he dismissed them as nothing more than bedtime stories meant to scare kids into behaving. Now standing in the cold sterility of his ship, those stories felt uncomfortably close to reality. Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly to piece together clues. They analyzed every scrap of evidence, reviewed hours of surveillance footage, and consulted experts in fields ranging from psychology to xenobiology. But the more they learned, the less sense it made. The disappearances weren't random, they followed a pattern, albeit one that defied conventional understanding. Each site bore the same cryptic message. You forgo rule #1. And then there was the timing. All of the incidents occurred shortly after the war ended. Coincidence? Maybe, but Ryan didn't believe in coincidences anymore. One evening, as the rest of the crew rested, Ryan found himself pacing the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before him, beautiful yet indifferent. He couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had won the battle but was losing the war. Whatever was out there, it wasn't just targeting soldiers or settlers. It was targeting hope itself. A soft cough interrupted his thoughts. Turning, he saw Emily standing in the doorway, clutching a datapad. Her expression was grim. "I think I found something," she said, holding up the device. "It's a fragment from an old Earth archive, part of a classified program called Operation Nightshade." Ryan frowned. "Never heard of it." "That's because it was buried deep," Emily explained. According to these files, the program studied ancient myths and folklore, attempting to weaponize them. They believed fear could be used as a tool, not just to intimidate enemies, but to control allies. Ryan's stomach sank. "Are you telling me our own side created this thing?" "I don't know," Emily admitted. "But whoever did, they left behind a warning. Rule number 1, never underestimate what hides in the shadows." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The implications hung heavy in the air. If humanity had unleashed something beyond its control, then the real fight was only beginning. "We need to stop it," Ryan said finally. "Whatever it is, wherever it came from, we can't let it destroy what we've built." Emily nodded. "Agreed. But how do you fight a shadow?" Ryan stared out at the stars once more. "By shining a light." The ship was quiet, save for the hum of its engines and the occasional beep of instruments. Captain Ryan Cole sat in his quarters, staring at the classified files Emily had uncovered about Operation Nightshade. The words on the screen glowed faintly in the dim light, but they felt heavier than any battle report he'd ever read. Rule number 1, never underestimate what hides in the shadows. It seemed so simple, almost childish. Yet, it sent a chill down his spine. Ryan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He wasn't sure what troubled him more, the idea that humanity had created something dangerous, or the fact that he couldn't remember hearing about Operation Nightshade before now. During the war, secrets were common. Military leaders often kept projects hidden to protect morale or maintain strategic advantages. But this felt different. It felt personal. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Private Jake Thompson stepped inside, clutching a datapad. His young face looked pale, and his hands trembled slightly as he held out the device. "Sir, I think you need to see this." Ryan took the datapad and glanced at the screen. It displayed another fragment of information, This time, a list of names. Most were unfamiliar, but one stood out, Dr. Harold Jenkins. Ryan recognized the name immediately. Jenkins had been a brilliant scientist who worked on advanced psychological warfare during the war. Rumors said he disappeared after an experiment. Went wrong. Now it seemed those rumors might have been true. What is this? Ryan asked, looking up at Jake. I found it buried in the archives, Jake explained. It's part of Operation Nightshade. These are the people who worked on the project. I cross-referenced them with reports of missing ships and outposts. Almost all of them are gone, Ryan frowned. You're saying whoever or whatever is behind these disappearances might be targeting the scientists involved. Jake nodded. It's possible. Or maybe they're the ones causing it. The room fell silent as Ryan processed the implications. If Jenkins and his team had created something capable of wiping out entire outposts, then humanity wasn't just dealing with an enemy, it was facing a monster of its own making. Later that day, Ryan gathered his team in the briefing room, alongside Emily and Jake. Sergeant Maria Lopez joined them. Maria was a seasoned soldier with a no-nonsense attitude and a reputation for getting things done. Her dark eyes scanned the room as Ryan laid out the situation. We know there's a connection between Operation Nightshade and these disappearances, Ryan began. What we don't know is whether this is some kind of alien threat, a human experiment gone wrong, or something else entirely. But we can't ignore it anymore. Maria crossed her arms. So what's the plan, sir? We investigate, Ryan replied. There's a derelict research facility near the edge of explored space. According to the records, it was one of the last known locations tied to Operation Nightshade. If we want answers, we'll find them there. Emily nodded. I've already plotted a course. We should reach it in 3 days. Jake shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Sir, do you really think it's safe? What if whatever's out there finds us first? Ryan gave him a steady look. If it wanted us dead, it would have acted by now. This thing seems to enjoy playing games, leaving messages, toying with its victims. That gives us an advantage. We can prepare, Maria smirked. Finally, a mission where we get to punch something in the face. Despite her bravado, Ryan could tell she was uneasy. They all were, but fear wouldn't stop them. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and they'd won. Ryan intended to keep it that way. 3 days later, the Eclipse arrived at the coordinates of the abandoned facility. From orbit, the planet below looked desolate, a barren wasteland covered in jagged rocks and endless dust. The facility itself was barely visible, half buried under decades of decay. Vines crept up its walls, and parts of the structure had collapsed, giving it the appearance of a tomb. As the team suited up for their descent, Ryan addressed them one last time. Stay sharp, stick together. And remember, rule number 1. They landed in a clearing not far from the facility. The air was thick with dust, and the sky above was a dull orange. As they approached the building, Maria scanned the area with her rifle. Place looks like a graveyard, she muttered. Inside, the facility was even worse. The power was out, leaving them reliant on flashlights to navigate the narrow corridors. Papers littered the floor, and equipment lay abandoned, as though the scientists had fled in a hurry. The walls were covered in strange symbols, painted in what looked like dried blood. Some were familiar shapes resembling ancient runes, but others were completely alien. This doesn't make sense, Emily whispered, examining one of the symbols. These markings, they're a mix of human and non-human languages, like someone tried to combine them. Or something did, Jake added nervously. Ryan ignored the comment and pressed on. At the end of the hallway, they found a large door, marked with a single phrase, "You broke the rules." Maria kicked the door open, revealing a massive chamber filled with rows of pods. Each pod contained a humanoid figure suspended in a greenish liquid. Their faces were obscured by masks, but their bodies twitched occasionally, as if alive. "What the hell is this?" Maria demanded, lowering her weapon. Emily moved closer to examine one of the pods. "It's some kind of stasis system. These people, they're not dead. They're being kept alive. But why?" Ryan asked, scanning the room. "And by whom?" Before anyone could answer, the lights flickered, plunging the chamber into darkness. A low, guttural laugh echoed through the space, sending chills down their spines. "Welcome," a distorted voice growled. "You shouldn't have come here." Ryan raised his flashlight, swinging it around to locate the source of the sound. In the beam of light, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall and gaunt, dressed in tattered American military fatigues. Its face was skeletal, with hollow eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Around its neck hung dog tags, though the name engraved on them was unreadable. "Who are you?" Ryan demanded, raising his weapon. The figure tilted its head, grinning wickedly. "I'm the Boogeyman. Or at least that's what your kind calls me." Jake took a step back, his voice trembling. "This isn't real. It can't be." "Oh, it's real," the creature hissed. "And you've made a big mistake. You forgot rule number 1. "What rule?" Ryan snapped. "What are you talking about?" The Boogeyman chuckled, circling them slowly. "Never underestimate what hides in the shadows. Your scientists thought they could control me. They thought they could turn my power into a weapon. But they didn't understand. Fear isn't something you can bottle up. It spreads, consumes." Maria tightened her grip on her rifle. "Enough talk. Let's take him down." "No," Ryan shouted, grabbing her arm. "We don't know what we're dealing with." The Boogeyman laughed again, louder this time. "Smart man, but it's too late. You've already broken the rules. Now you'll pay the price." With a wave of its hand, the lights went out completely. Panic set in as the team scrambled to regroup. Flashlights flickered, casting chaotic beams across the room. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting and contorting into unnatural shapes. "Stay close," Ryan ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Don't let it isolate us." But it was already happening. One by one, the pods began to drain, and the figures inside started moving. They stumbled forward, their movements jerky and unnatural, their faces still obscured by masks. Whatever they weren't human anymore. "Shoot them!" Maria yelled, firing her rifle. The bullets passed through the creatures harmlessly, dissipating into thin air. Emily grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him toward the exit. "We need to get out of here." Ryan hesitated, his mind racing. This wasn't a fight they could win with weapons. They needed another way. Then he remembered Emily's earlier words. Myths are powerful because they tap into universal fears. If this thing fed on fear, maybe they could use that against it. "Listen to me," Ryan shouted over the commotion. "We can't fight it directly. We have to confront it with light, literal and symbolic." Maria stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "Light? Are you serious?" "It's our only chance," Ryan insisted. "Trust me." Reluctantly, the team followed his lead. Using portable floodlights and emergency flares, they formed a tight circle, bathing the room in bright light. The shadows recoiled, retreating into the corners. Even the Boogeyman seemed affected, his form flickering like static. "You think this will stop me?" It snarled, its voice wavering. "You can't escape your fears." Ryan stepped forward, holding a flare in one hand and his flashlight in the other. "Maybe not, but we can face them." For a moment, the Boogeyman wavered, its confidence faltering. Then, with a final ear-splitting scream, it vanished into the darkness, taking the shadowy figures with it. The room fell silent once more. The team stood frozen, their breaths heavy with relief and disbelief. "What just happened?" Jake asked, breaking the silence. Ryan lowered his flashlight, his expression grim. "We survived. For now." But deep down, He knew this wasn't over. The Boogeyman had given them a reprieve, but it had also issued a warning. Humanity had broken the rules, and sooner or later, it would have to pay the price. The team stumbled back to the eclipse, their minds racing with questions they couldn't answer. None of them spoke as they boarded the ship and sealed the airlock behind them. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hiss of the decontamination chamber and the faint hum of the engines powering up. Each member of the team carried the weight of what they'd seen, the shadowy figures, the cryptic messages, the gaunt man who called himself the Boogeyman. Once inside the safety of the ship, Ryan ordered everyone to the briefing room. He needed answers, or at least a plan. As they gathered around the table, he could see the fear in their eyes. Even Maria, who rarely showed emotion, looked shaken. Jake sat hunched over, his hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles turned white. Emily, ever the thinker, stared blankly at the wall, her mind clearly working overtime. "All right," Ryan said, leaning forward. "Let's go over what we know. That thing, whatever it is, it's tied to Operation Nightshade. It feeds on fear, uses shadows, and seems to operate by some kind of twisted set of rules." Maria snorted. "Rules? You're calling that psycho's nonsense a rulebook?" Ryan ignored her sarcasm. "It doesn't matter if it makes sense to us. What matters is that it works for him. And if we want to survive, we need to figure out how to fight it." Emily finally spoke up. "We've been thinking about this all wrong. This isn't just an enemy. It's a concept, a manifestation of fear itself. Myths like the Boogeyman exist because they tap into universal human anxieties. If we can understand its source, maybe we can find a way to counteract it." Jake frowned. "But how do you fight something that lives in your head? How do you fight yourself?" Ryan nodded slowly. "That's the hard part. But we've faced impossible odds before. We'll find a way." Over the next few hours, the team worked together to piece together a strategy. They reviewed every scrap of information they had, from the classified files on Operation Nightshade to the symbols etched into the walls of the research facility. Emily cross-referenced the markings with ancient Earth folklore, while Jake dug deeper into the archives for any mention of similar incidents. Maria focused on fortifying the ship, ensuring they were prepared for another encounter. As the hours dragged on, exhaustion began to set in. But no one suggested resting. They all knew time wasn't on their side. Whatever the Boogeyman was, it wasn't going to wait for them to catch their breath. Finally, Emily stood up, holding a datapad. Her face was pale but determined. "I think I found something. Those symbols in the facility, they're not random. They're instructions. A ritual, if you will. Something meant to summon or control the Boogeyman." Ryan leaned forward. "A ritual? You mean like magic?" Emily hesitated. "Not exactly. Think of it more as a psychological trigger. The scientists must have used these symbols to activate whatever they created. But instead of controlling it, they unleashed it." Maria crossed her arms. "Great. So we're dealing with some kind of intergalactic witchcraft now." "It's not witchcraft," Emily snapped. "It's science wrapped in superstition. Fear is a powerful tool. If you can manipulate it, you can manipulate people. That's what they were trying to do." Jake raised his hand. "Timid Air Force Base." The eclipse drifted silently through the void, its engines humming softly as it carried Ryan and his team deeper into uncharted space. The mood aboard the ship was tense, a mix of exhaustion and dread hanging over everyone like a storm cloud. They had survived their encounter with the Boogeyman, but none of them felt safe. The cryptic warnings, the shadowy figures, the chilling laughter, it all lingered in their minds, refusing to fade. Ryan stood on the bridge, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. His reflection in the glass was pale, his eyes heavy with fatigue. He hadn't slept since they left the research facility. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the Boogeyman's hollow gaze, heard its distorted voice whispering about broken rules. Rule number 1 haunted him. What did it mean? Who had set these rules, and why were they so important? Behind him, Emily approached quietly. She held a datapad in one hand, her expression grim. "Sir," she said softly, "I've been reviewing the symbols again. I think I understand what they're for." Ryan turned to face her, his brow furrowed. "Go on. They're not just instructions for summoning the Boogeyman," Emily explained. "They're also a map, a way to track it. Each symbol corresponds to a location where it's been active. If we follow the pattern, we might be able to predict where it'll show up next." Ryan nodded slowly. "That's useful, but it doesn't tell us how to stop it." "No," Emily admitted. "But maybe we don't need to stop it directly. Maybe we can contain it." According to the files, Operation Nightshade wasn't just about creating fear. It was about controlling it. The scientists thought they could harness the Boogeyman's power and use it as a weapon. If we can figure out how they plan to do that, we might be able to reverse the process. Maria, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped forward. "You're talking about trapping a nightmare. How exactly are we supposed to do that?" "I don't know yet," Emily admitted. "But we have to try. If we don't, it'll keep spreading. It'll consume everything." Ryan clenched his fists, his jaw tight. "Then we prepare. We gather every piece of information we can and stay one step ahead of it. Whatever it takes, we stop this thing before it reaches Earth." The team spent the next several hours poring over data, plotting coordinates, and brainstorming strategies. Jake, still visibly shaken, worked tirelessly at his station, running simulations and analyzing patterns. Maria paced the room, her rifle slung over her shoulder, ready for anything. Emily continued decoding the symbols, piecing together fragments of knowledge buried in ancient myths and classified documents. And Ryan? He kept watch, ensuring no one lost focus. Finally, Jake spoke up, his voice trembling slightly. "I found something. There's another outpost, Sector 17. It matches the pattern. The Boogeyman's been there." Ryan looked at him sharply. "Are you sure?" Jake nodded. "The logs show strange activity right before contact was lost. Same as the others, but there's more." He hesitated, glancing at the screen. "There's a survivor." The room fell silent. A survivor? After everything they'd seen, idea seemed impossible. Yet it was hope, a fragile thread to cling to. "Who is it?" Ryan asked. "A scientist," Jake replied. "Dr. Natalie Brooks. She was part of Operation Nightshade. Her signal's weak, but she's alive." Ryan exchanged a glance with Emily. This changed things. If they could reach Dr. Brooks, she might have answers, information that could help them fight the Boogeyman. "Set a course for Sector 17. Ryan ordered. "We move now." The journey to Sector 17 took longer than expected. The sector was isolated, far from any major trade routes or colonies. As they approached, the ship's sensors picked up faint energy readings emanating from a derelict station floating in the darkness. Its exterior was battered and scorched, its once pristine surface marred by years of neglect. It looked like a ghost ship, adrift in the void. The team suited up and prepared to board. Armed with flashlights, floodlights, and portable scanners, they moved cautiously through the airlock and into the station. The interior was eerily quiet, the only sound the creak of metal as the structure shifted under their weight. Dust covered every surface, and the air smelled stale, like something long forgotten. "This place gives me the creeps," Maria muttered, her rifle at the ready. "Stay alert," Ryan warned. "We don't know what's waiting for us." They followed the signal to a small lab tucked away in the heart of the station. The door was sealed shut, but Maria managed to pry it open with a crowbar. Inside, they found Dr. Natalie Brooks huddled in a corner, her face pale and gaunt. She looked like she hadn't eaten or slept in days. "Dr. Brooks?" Ryan asked gently, stepping closer. We're here to help." She flinched at the sound of his voice, her wide eyes darting around the room. No, you shouldn't be. Here, you'll make it worse." "It's okay," Emily said soothingly, kneeling beside her. "We know about the boogeyman. We're trying to stop it." Brooke shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand. It's not just a creature. It's a force. A punishment. We broke the rules, and now it won't stop until we pay." "What rules?" Ryan demanded, his voice firm but calm. "Tell us what happened." Brooks took a shaky breath, clutching a tattered notebook to her chest. "Operation Nightshade. We thought we could control it. We used fear as a weapon, tapped into humanity's darkest stories. But we didn't realize we unleashed something ancient. Something that doesn't forgive. Rule number 1, Jake whispered. Brooks nodded. Never underestimate what hides in the shadows. That was the first rule, the most important one. And we ignored it." Ryan exchanged a glance with Emily. This was worse than they'd imagined. The boogeyman wasn't just a creation of science, it was something older, something primal. Something that thrived on humanity's mistakes. How do we stop it? Ryan asked. Brooks hesitated, her hands trembling. "You can't destroy it. But you can trap it. There's a ritual, an old one. It requires light, pure and unyielding, and belief." "You have to believe you can win," Maria scoffed. "Belief? That's your big plan?" "It's not just belief," Brooks snapped, her voice suddenly sharp. "It's faith in yourselves, in each other. The boogeyman feeds on doubt, on fear. If you let it in, it'll consume you. But if you stand strong—" Her voice trailed off, and she slumped back against the wall, exhausted. Ryan knelt beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll do it, whatever it takes." Back on the Eclipse, the team gathered in the briefing room to discuss their next move. Brooks's words weighed heavily on them. Light and belief, simple concepts, yet daunting in practice. How could they possibly prepare for a battle fought not with weapons, but with courage? "We'll need more than flashlights this time," Emily said, breaking the silence. "We'll need holograms, projectors, anything that can amplify light. And we'll need to reinforce our mental defenses. This isn't just a physical fight, it's psychological." Maria frowned. "So what? We meditate or something?" "In a way," Emily replied. "Fear is a choice. We can let it control us, or we can face it head on. If we want to beat the boogeyman, we have to confront our own fears." Jake swallowed hard. "And if we fail?" Ryan met his gaze, his expression resolute. "Then we die trying. But we're not going to fail. Humanity has faced monsters before. This one's no different." As the team dispersed to prepare, Ryan stayed behind, staring at the stars once more. The weight of leadership pressed down on him, but he refused to buckle. They had come too far to give up now. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The boogeyman thought it had the upper hand. It thought humanity was weak. But Ryan knew better. Fear might live in the shadows, but so did strength. And when the time came, they would shine a light so bright, even the boogeyman couldn't hide. The Eclipse drifted silently through the void, its crew preparing for what might be their final stand. Ryan paced the bridge, his mind racing with doubts and fears he tried to push aside. He had spent years leading soldiers into battle, but this was different. This wasn't a war fought with guns or strategy. It was a battle waged in the shadows of the human psyche. Every step they took felt like walking deeper into a nightmare. Emily sat at a nearby console, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she programmed holographic projectors and synchronized floodlights. Her face was pale, but her hands were steady. She knew that technology alone wouldn't save them, but it was a start. Light was their weapon now, and every beam mattered. Maria stood by the door, her rifle slung over her shoulder. She wasn't sure how much good it would do against a creature made of shadow, but it gave her comfort. You really think this is going to work? She asked, her voice low. It has to, Ryan replied without turning around. We don't have another option. Jake entered the room, carrying a stack of equipment. His young face was lined with worry, but there was determination in his eyes. I've set up the holograms in the cargo bay. If we can lure it there, we might have a chance. Ryan nodded. Good work. Keep checking the sensors. We need to know when it's coming. As the hours passed, tension filled the ship. The team worked tirelessly, double-checking every detail, rehearsing their roles. They couldn't afford mistakes, not this time. The Boogeyman had already proven it could exploit their weaknesses, twisting their fears into weapons. This time, they had to be ready. It came for them in the dead of night. The alarms blared suddenly, jolting everyone awake. Red lights flashed across the ship as the sensors detected an unknown presence approaching. Ryan bolted upright from his bunk, his heart pounding. He grabbed his flashlight and headed for the bridge. Report! He barked as he entered. It's here, Jake said, his voice trembling. The sensors are picking up something. It's moving toward us. Ryan clenched his jaw. Activate the floodlights and seal off the cargo bay. Everyone, move to your positions. The team scrambled to follow his orders. Emily rushed to the control panel, activating the holographic projectors. Images of sunlight streaming through. Trees, warm campfires, and smiling faces flickered to life in the cargo bay, casting soft glows meant to mimic hope and safety. Maria took her place near the entrance, her rifle raised despite knowing it might not help. Jake monitored the sensors, tracking the Boogeyman's movements. Ryan stood in the center of the room, gripping his flashlight tightly. He could feel the fear creeping in, threatening to overwhelm him. Memories of past failures, of battles lost and comrades fallen, swirled in his mind. But he forced himself to focus. This wasn't just about him, it was about humanity. About survival. The temperature dropped suddenly, and the lights flickered. A low, guttural laugh echoed through the ship, sending shivers down their spines. The Boogeyman stepped into view, its gaunt figure cloaked in shadow. Its hollow eyes glowed faintly, and its jagged grin sent waves of unease through the room. You've been busy, it sneered, its voice distorted and mocking. But you still don't understand. You can't win. We'll see about that, Ryan shot back, raising his flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, forcing the creature to recoil slightly. You're not invincible. The Boogeyman chuckled darkly. Brave words, but bravery won't save you. Not when you're afraid. With a wave of its hand, the holograms began to distort. The images of sunlight and warmth twisted into scenes of destruction, burning cities, screaming crowds, endless voids. Fear clawed at the edges of their minds, pulling at their resolve. Maria growled, firing her rifle instinctively. The bullets passed harmlessly through the creature, dissipating into nothingness. Damn it, stay focused. Ryan shouted, don't let it get inside your head. Emily closed her eyes, taking deep breaths. She remembered Dr. Brooks's warning. Belief was key. If they doubted themselves, the Boogeyman would win. Opening her eyes, she adjusted the controls, stabilizing. The holograms. Slowly, the images shifted back to light and warmth, pushing back against the darkness. Jake stumbled backward, clutching his head. Visions of failure flooded his mind, moments where he hadn't been strong enough, fast enough, brave enough. Tears streamed down his face as he sank to his knees. I can't. I'm not good enough. Jake! Ryan yelled, rushing to his side. He grabbed the young man by the shoulders, shaking him gently. Look at me. You're stronger than this. You've faced worse. Don't let it win. Jake blinked, struggling to focus. He saw Ryan's face, stern but kind, and nodded slowly. Taking a shaky breath, he climbed to his feet, gripping his own flashlight. Okay, he whispered. I'm okay. The Boogeyman hissed, its form flickering as the light grew brighter. "You think you can fight me? You're nothing but cowards, clinging to false hope." "No," Emily said firmly, stepping forward. "Hope isn't false. It's real, and so are we." Maria joined her, standing tall despite the fear gnawing at her chest. "Yeah, so why don't you try fighting someone who isn't scared of your stupid tricks?" The creature snarled, lashing out with tendrils of shadow. The team braced themselves, holding their ground. The floodlights blazed, bathing the room in brilliance. The boogeyman recoiled, its form wavering like smoke caught in a breeze. Ryan stepped forward, his voice steady. "You wanted to teach us a lesson? Fine. Here it is. Humanity doesn't give up. No matter how dark things get, we find a way to shine. That's our rule." The boogeyman let out a deafening scream, its body dissolving into wisps of shadow. For a moment, the room was silent. Then, with a final burst of light, it vanished completely. The team stood frozen, their breaths heavy with relief and disbelief. Had they done it? Was it truly over? Emily broke the silence. "Is it gone?" "For now," Ryan replied, lowering his flashlight. "But we can't let our guard down. Something like that doesn't just disappear." Maria nodded, lowering her rifle. "Whatever. I'm just glad I didn't have to punch it in the face." Despite the levity, the weight of what they'd faced lingered. They had confronted their deepest fears and emerged victorious, but at a cost. Each of them carried scars, both visible and invisible. As they began cleaning up, Ryan paused to look at his team. They were battered and bruised, but they were alive. Together, they had faced the darkness and found a way to push back. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. For now, that was all they needed. The Eclipse drifted through space, its crew exhausted but alive. The encounter with the boogeyman had left them shaken, their nerves frayed like worn-out wires. Yet, there was a strange sense of relief in the air, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, they had won. Ryan stood on the bridge, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. His mind replayed every moment of the battle, the fear, the doubt, the flashes of light cutting through the darkness. He wondered if they had truly defeated the creature or merely driven it away. Emily sat nearby, reviewing data on her tablet. Her hands moved slowly, fatigue evident in every gesture. She hadn't spoken much since the fight, lost in thought. The boogeyman's words echoed in her mind. "You're nothing but cowards clinging to false hope." Was that true? Had they only survived because the boogeyman underestimated them? Or was there something about humanity itself that gave them strength? Jake leaned against the wall, his face pale but calm. For the first time in days, he didn't look like he was about to collapse. Facing his fears had been harder than anything he'd ever done, but it had changed him. He felt stronger, more confident. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that the boogeyman wasn't gone for good. Maria paced the room, restless as always. She hated sitting idle, especially after everything they'd been through. "So what now?" she asked, breaking the silence. "Do we just go back to Earth and pretend this never happened?" Ryan turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. "No, we can't ignore this. Whatever that thing is, it's tied to Operation Nightshade. If we don't deal with it, it'll keep coming back." Emily nodded. "We need to report what we've learned. Humanity has to know the truth, not just about the boogeyman, but about the dangers of playing with forces we don't understand." Jake frowned. "But who's going to believe us?" "It sounds crazy, even to me, and I was there," Ryan sighed. "That's why we have to make sure our story is backed by evidence. The symbols, the research facility, Dr. Brooks, all of it points to something real, something dangerous." The journey back to Earth took longer than expected. During the voyage, the team worked together to compile their findings. Emily wrote detailed reports, documenting every detail of their encounters with the boogeyman. Jake helped organize the data, creating visual aids to support their claims. Maria kept watch, ensuring no unexpected threats slipped past them. And Ryan? He spent hours alone on the bridge, thinking about the future, when they finally reached Earth. The planet looked beautiful from orbit, a blue and green jewel floating in the vastness of space. But Ryan knew better than to trust appearances. Beneath the surface, humanity was still vulnerable. If the Boogeyman returned, it wouldn't stop at isolated outposts or abandoned stations. It would strike at the heart of civilization. They landed at a secure military base where high-ranking officials awaited them. Ryan led the briefing, presenting their evidence and recounting their experiences. At first, many dismissed their story as delusional ramblings brought on by stress and exhaustion. But as Emily displayed the symbols, the footage from the research facility, and the testimony of Dr. Brooks, skepticism gave way to concern. "This isn't just some ghost story," Ryan said firmly. "It's a warning. Humanity created this thing or woke it up, and now we have to live with the consequences. If we don't prepare, it will destroy us." The officials exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, a stern-faced general named Carter, spoke up. "Assuming you're right, and that's a big assumption, what do you propose we do?" Ryan hesitated. He hadn't expected such a direct question. "We need to implement new protocols," he said finally. "Training programs focused not just on physical combat, but on mental resilience. Fear is a weapon, and we have to learn how to defend against it." Emily added, "And we need transparency." Operation Nightshade was buried because someone thought the truth was too dangerous. Keeping secrets like that only makes things worse. Carter rubbed his temples, clearly overwhelmed. "This is bigger than any one person or any one organization. We'll need to involve governments, scientists, historians, everyone." Ryan nodded. "Start small. Educate people about the importance of facing fear instead of running from it. Teach them rule number 1, never underestimate what hides in the shadows." In the weeks that followed, Ryan and his team became advocates for change. They traveled across Earth, sharing their story and urging leaders to take action. Emily worked closely with psychologists and educators, developing programs to help people confront their fears. Jake found his voice, speaking passionately about the importance of courage and unity. Even Maria softened slightly, mentoring young recruits and teaching them how to stay strong under pressure. Dr. Brooks joined their efforts, providing insight into Operation Nightshade and helping decode the remaining mysteries surrounding the Boogeyman. Together, they pieced together fragments of ancient myths and modern science, searching for ways to protect humanity from future threats. But despite their progress, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Late at night, when the world was quiet, he would stare out at the stars and wonder if the Boogeyman was still out there, biding its time, waiting. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan stood on a hill overlooking the city. Lights twinkled in the distance, a reminder of all they were fighting to protect. Emily approached quietly, joining him in silence. "What are you thinking about?" she asked after a while. "The future," Ryan replied. "We've made progress, but it's not enough. That thing, it's not just a monster. It's a reflection of who we are. Our fears, our mistakes, our hubris." Emily nodded. "And if we want to beat it, we have to be better, stronger." Ryan smiled faintly. "Yeah, but we're getting there." As they stood side by side, watching the sky darken, a single star flared brightly in the distance. It was small, almost insignificant compared to the vastness of space. But it shone with unwavering brilliance, a beacon of hope in the endless night. "Rule number 1. Emily murmured, half to herself. Ryan glanced at her, then back at the star. "Never underestimate what hides in the shadows," he said softly, "or what shines in the dark." For now, humanity had won. But Ryan knew the fight was far from over. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, the Boogeyman waited. And when it returned, humanity would have to be ready.